Okay, so we've got our natural wine. The evening is upon us, and we're gonna get started here.
7-year-old might be asleep. We'll see.
I think she's
It seems like it.
yeah, very tired. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. Um, we are gonna talk about family cycling. Uh, my name, little intro here. My name's Brett Thurber.
And I'm Karin Wiener, and we own the New Wheel, which is an electric bike shop here in the Bay Area. We have shops in San Francisco, Larkspur, which is in Marin County, and Oakland. Um, and this evening really it is interactive. So if you are with us live, please feel free to drop a question in the chat at any time. That can help us know that a topic is important to you or that you have further questions. It's just fun to keep it interactive. We'll also have a short Q&A section at the end of the presentation. Um,
We started. Well, first off, a little bit about us and the New Wheel. So we started the New Wheel in 2010 out of our apartment, and we
in
opened
Oakland.
in Oakland, and we opened our retail store in San Francisco in 2011, um, and then our Marin County store in Larkspur Landing in 2016, and then our Oakland store in the Oakmore neighborhood, right off of Park Boulevard in 2022. Um, we are this is our, what would you call this, our mission statement? This is our mission statement, our
This is our value proposition to
yeah.
people. I mean, we're a local um, e-bike company. And so what that means is that we choose product that matches the needs of our environment. And the Bay Area has special criteria due to our hills, our salty air, the quality of our streets, the kind of use cases that people want to put these bikes into action in. It just requires a higher quality of product. And so out of the gate, we were selling good electric bikes because we realized that if you had a good electric bike, you could replace a lot of car trips. And if you could replace a lot of car trips, you could love this place that we live even more. And so a big part of what we do for our customers is we choose good product that is supported by, suppliers that we can work with to give you, as a rider, the best experience. That leads into the comprehensive services that we provide, regular maintenance, warranty services,
Also
problem
on this, on
solving.
the sales side too, so
True.
hands-on sales with people who really care and know. But the quality product plus the comprehensive services really add up to long-term customer success. That's what we're about.
That's what our
And
goal is.
we are local, so we're experiential. Test rides are super important. Local service is super important. So what we're going to cover today, we have four sections. First section is big picture, kind of what family cycling is all about. Then we'll go into some essential things to know. Then we'll dive into the gear, the bikes and whatnot, and then finally we'll talk about how to get started. Um, so to get things kicked off, let's talk big picture. So um, you are here because you're curious about electric family cycling. And I think that the most important thing to know is that um, it's it's just such an incredible thing to do with your family. It's good on so many different levels. It's full of joy. It's very flexible. It sort of meets you where you're at and meets your schedule and meets your needs really well. And it's just a whole lot of fun, not only for you, the rider, but for the whole family. Um,
One of the things is that because we are in the retail store, because we're constantly talking to customers, we have our own personal experiences on electric bikes and as parents who ride bikes with their kids, but we also get a lot of feedback. And what we hear a lot is that there are a lot of multi-dimensional benefits, right? People make this choice for all different types of reasons. One of the big ones is just convenience. So you've probably seen people, at the school drop-off line, just come straight up to the front door, drop their kids off, and go. But that's not the only point of convenience. There's parking. There's just the amount of time it takes to cover 5 miles in an urban environment is faster by e-bike than it is by car. I would say probably every time. There are also really significant savings. So a lot of our customers tell us that they've sold a second car, which is a massive savings per year. There's also savings on insurance, gas, maintenance. There's an upfront cost, but the upfront cost of a bicycle is much, much lower than the upfront cost of a car. Next, there's just the feeling of community. There's a closer engagement with where you are, whether that is, just somebody walking on the street, somebody, just another person, whether it's another bicycle rider or the person that you pass every day at the same time when you're on your way to school, ringing your bell. There's this real feeling of kind of attachment, even just like noticing that a street has been repaved and being thankful to the MTA people who are like doing it. It's a much more sort of textured experience of where you live than you might otherwise get.
You can also stop. I mean, I think the key thing is you can stop places so easily.
Oh, it's so
So you can
true.
actually,
You can stop at local businesses. You
yeah,
can run errands quickly.
with a car, you have to, oftentimes you're thinking, do I want to make the schlep? And now there's parking and then I'm circling the block. But with a bike, I think the big thing that sort of helps you engage community is if you run into someone, you can just stop. And if you see something that looks interesting, you just pull right over. There's no issue. So that just helps with community.
Totally.
Um,
The other thing is just health, right? It's not only are you focused and kind of not multitasking when you're riding a bike, but you're also getting exercise. And on an electric bike, you can choose to get as much exercise as you want. So the technology truly will support you in whatever your health goals are. If just getting out there and moving is your goal, you don't have to work very hard to get anywhere, even in San Francisco. Or if you want to get, a real cardio workout or a strength workout, you can do that too. And then finally, the, environmental impact of choosing to ride a bike instead of driving is just enormous. And I think that that gives a lot of people kind of secondary meaning and motivation to to make the change.
and tied into community aspect, the more people who are cycling and not driving, um,
The better it
the
is.
better it is for everyone, and also the air in our areas. And even, honestly, there's a lot of talk about electric cars. Electric cars are extremely resource intensive. The amount of energy that it takes to ride a bike for a week is equivalent to maybe like a 5 minute hot shower. Whereas if you drive, an electric SUV or even one of the small ones, it's orders of magnitude more energy intensive, and that energy does come from somewhere, and it is, maybe it's not polluting here in San Francisco or Oakland or Marin, but it's happening somewhere. So
Less is more.
less is more.
There's been really no better time to make this change. And you see the evidence on the street. There are just so many people riding electric bikes around for their own transportation and for their family transportation. A few big changes have happened since we opened the new wheel 15 years ago. One of them is city infrastructure. Like infrastructure is just better. And the
A lot of
better
car-free streets now.
there are car-free streets. There are places where you will see toddlers riding their bikes. And that is new. And that is important because the better the infrastructure is, the more people ride. And it's super exciting. Additionally, we just have great technology now. So 10 years ago, there were hardly, well, 12 years ago, there were really no bikes that were specifically designed for this use, which meant that the people who were doing it had to be total mavericks and fans and weekend bike
Hardcore.
repairers and hardcore and like just super into it. And now you can just think it's a good idea and it can work really well for you. And that's because the technology is here. And we'll get into a lot more of those details over the course of this evening.
So let's go over some essentials. So the first thing we always hear about, or one of the biggest reasons for people to be wary or not want to take the first step in starting riding is bike theft. It is on top of everyone's minds. The good news is there I make this is a little bit bold here. No more bike theft. There is still bike theft. The good thing though is that the bike technology and the locking technology has come an incredibly long way. So first off, the picture here is of a new lock that Abbas makes that is basically angle grinder proof. It has a coating on it that breaks the blades on angle grinders. And angle grinders in the worst areas for bike theft are the preferred method for breaking into locks. But when you have a lock that is impenetrable or breaks the blade, you are going to have vast improvements in terms of bike safety. So that's
Where's out the battery?
and wears out the battery. So multiple blades, many batteries. Um, so that is the first big change, and that's only in the last year or so. Um, Anti-theft systems. Now we're finding many of the bikes we carry have either like an Apple Find Me system built in or ability to build that in, or a full anti-theft GPS system with alarm. Um, and not only that, but they're also especially in the Bosch system, all of the components now are tied together and registered to you. So you can't, it's sort of the same principle as how car theft and has dropped so much is that it used to be that people would steal cars to steal the sound systems, but then they made the sound system sort of handshake the rest of the car. So if you steal that system, it isn't valuable anymore. It can't be resold. It's the same thing with e-bike. So now the battery,
The
the controller,
technology undermines the black market for the parts.
yeah. So it's very tied and it's tied to you too and registered to you. And then finally, comprehensive e-bike insurance. So we work with a partner called Bike Insure. They offer a plan that's $25 a month that has a $250 deductible and a $10,000 limit. It's total peace of mind because that's at the end of the day, what it really needs to be is that you don't have to think about it. You should be able to park your bike anywhere and do whatever you want to do, just as you would a car, and not worry about it. And if anything goes wrong, you're insured. Um, there's also the maintenance side of things. So, a lot of people are wary to get started cycling because, like, do you need to fix a flat? Like, what happens if there's something that goes wrong? And that was something that we tried to address early on. And so the way that we address it is we offer service plans that are, well, first off, the product itself has become extremely reliable and high performance. Um, but our service plans offer um, peace of mind. So nationwide roadside pickup service. So you can get two pickups per year and driven up to 30 miles. So you don't have to worry if anything goes wrong, you're covered. Um, Tune adjustments are covered in the shops. And then things like wear parts, brake pads, tubes, and tires the installation of that is included as well as part of this maintenance. So you don't have to be a super handy person to enjoy riding on a daily basis.
Another question we get is like, when can I start riding with my kids, or are my kids too big, or whatever? There is a life cycle of riding with family members. Here's a picture of me and Ida when Ida was about a month old. Um, you can ride with tiny kids if that's what you so desire, but most of the people who are interested in this topic, I think, will have older kids. And, it's very, very interesting to see. It's been interesting for me to see how our daughter Ida started riding early with us. And she actually started like getting off and riding on her own early too. Like by the time she was 4.5, 5, she was riding through Golden Gate Park by herself. And
Well, with us, but
well, I mean, like
yeah.
on her own two wheels. We were accompanying her. most of the time. Um,
Yeah, for the most part.
and and that progression just continues, which is really interesting. So there is, we'll talk about bike form factor and what kind of bikes work for what aged kids. But there are lots and lots of really, really cool solutions. We even have solutions for people who have disabilities or, are bigger, like adult size, and need to ride together. Another question is just how many kids can I carry? One kid is super easy. Two kids are pretty much super easy too. Um,
We have bikes up to
really,
3. So
we have customers who ride with up to 4 kids on a regular basis. I would say those 4 kid families are hellbent and enthusiasts. But many of the bikes are built for 3 kids. Even more bikes are built for 2 kids, and then one is,
easy.
I would say, downright easy.
So on that note, let's talk about how you do that.
Gear.
Um, the first, there's some questions that's really useful to ask yourself, especially before test riding. But as you're sort of thinking about what sort of bike would make the best sense for you and your family, um, first question, and you can even write this stuff down in a list or a spreadsheet. How will, because it helps the sales rep. If you come in and you talk to someone, it's helpful to know this stuff up front. So, how old are your kids? um, Age differences will change what bikes would be recommended. Um, what would you like to be able to do? And on that point, and where would you need to go? Those are the practical ways of putting it. A lot of people will come in and say, I live in, the Sunset and I need to go to the financial district, but first I need to go to school and then I need to go back. And so it's around 4 miles and that's it. But the reality is, um, a good electric bike has so many possibilities that you didn't even imagine, or you didn't imagine if you didn't realize just how easy it is to now cycle anywhere. And so thinking bigger, like, would you like to go ride up to the top of Mount Tam? Would you like to, ride over the bridge? Would you like to do camping? There's all sorts of things you can do. So we like to help people sort of think as big as possible. And the important thing to know is that it's all possible on an e-bike.
I mean, one of the really cool things, a a good electric bike is like having a superpower. So like I am not the kind of person, I'm just under 5 feet tall. There's no way, and I'm not like an athlete. I'm just a normal schmo. And uh under normal circumstances, like I would not be a person who would ride to the top of Mount Tam to the Mountain Theater with my kid. There's just no way. But with an electric bike, all of a sudden I can. And so it's funny, I think we should actually edit this. Like, where do you need to go is the
Yeah.
first question, right? Like, that's many times what will attract a family or a person to this topic is a specific problem, right? Change in school, change in, like, just moved, new job, new school, new kid, like something like that. That changes the like baseline needs of your life. But then what would you dream to be able to do is where the magic really comes in and where the value is much higher than you can really wrap your head around until you get on a bike and start to ride.
Yeah. Another thing to think about is where you would park the bike. So if you have a garage, that's easy. How much space do you have? If you need to bring it into an apartment, that's another thing. Um, the other question is who needs to use the bike? So I'm 6'3" and Karin's a little, 5-ish,
Fish.
5 on a good day. That is a consideration when you're deciding on a bike. So knowing this stuff is really important. And then, how long can you use your setup? What that is more thinking about like, um, what's the life cycle? Like how old are the kids? Where do you need to be like,
What
what
are
do you
your
want to, yeah,
destinations?
exactly. So there's sort of 3 different buckets, of cargo bikes or family bikes. One is a standard e-bike. The other is a long tail cargo bike, so the passengers go on the back, and then the other is a front loader cargo bike.
Oopsies, sorry.
Um, the long tail and front load bikes are models that are going to have higher passenger weight capacity. So standard e-bikes will take kids. All of the bikes pretty much that we carry have high rack capacities, but they don't take passengers over a certain weight, whereas the long tail and the front loaders will. So now we're just going to go into the specifics of these different styles. So a standard e-bike, as you can see here, you can kind of see it through the text. You've got a child seat on the back, and you also have a trailer attached. Um, so the benefit of a standard e-bike is the handling is like a normal bike. Um, it's really fun to ride with or without children. So especially if you're thinking about using it as a commute bike or maybe an adventure bike on the weekends, but then you also want to be able to take kids, um, that's where a standard bike can be really handy. Storage can sometimes be easier. Generally, a standard e-bike is going to have a rack with a minimum capacity about 50 pounds on the rear rack. These days, it's going up a little higher. They have new racks that fit, that are specifically designed for a type of child seat that has a higher weight capacity. But you're looking at when the child is over around 5 or up or a little bit above, they've kind of gotten to the limit of what the rear rack is designed to handle.
It depends on your child's percentile, my friend.
Does. Yeah.
It's weight, not age.
Weight, not age. Um, but you're not going to have an older child sit on that rack. I mean, you can do it, but it's not rated for it.
You can't do it safely.
You can't do it safely.
Yeah.
Um, and then and then the other thing is you can add a trailer. So that's another good option sometimes, depending on your needs. You want to take this one?
So long tail rear loading cargo bikes or long tail bikes are bikes that essentially have like a stretched out rear rack. And fun fact, there's long tail bikes were popularized by a Bay Area company. It was an Oakland company called Extracycle, and they created a kit that you could take a regular bike and move the rear wheel back and extend your rear rack to make it really high capacity. And that idea is really interesting because when you're riding the bike by yourself, the cockpit feels very, very normal, but you have up to enough room for two, or sometimes I've seen three kids packed onto one of these bikes. Also, lots of bag space, front racks, all of these things. The One of the reasons that I think that long tail bikes have become so popular is that they fit people through a lot of their life cycle because the leg room is downward and your legs are bent. And so even a small adult can fit on the back of a mid-tail or long-tail bike.
They're very easy to ride for a first time rider, and also like Turn has sort of revolutionized the form factor of the bike and really went to a smaller wheel size so that the bike was very compact. So for smaller riders, which there's a number of, there's a lot of those, and for
So many of those.
so many of those. Um, I can't imagine what
am
that's
not
like.
one of those,
That's not what
but
that's. There is, it's very easy and it's very non-intimidating. And so that's why I think rear loading cargo bikes are our most popular models. Um,
the other thing that's great about them is that they're highly adjustable. So a lot of families share them. Um, this is like if in the one car family, you'll have, hey, I'm taking the car, you go pick up the kids, and in just 20 seconds, you can completely readjust the bike so that it fits two very different size people.
um, Front loaders, um, they're one really fun thing about them. They're also very adjustable. Um, Especially a good front loader, you can make a lot of adjustments. They're going to tend to be a little bit more expensive than rear loading bikes. There's more going on. Um, they are fun for having passengers in because you can really interact with the passenger. Some of our models even have a seat facing the rider, which is really fun. And they also work well or great with for infants, which is unique. You can models from Reese Muller and from Urban Arrow have like an adapter, so you can just pop a child seat right in there.
An infant carrier.
Infant carrier, Maxi Cozy. Um, the the
Maxi cozy at night makes you just want to get maxi cozy
um,
when you don't have an infant.
the frame is such that it's sort of it's very secure. It kind of goes all around the passenger, and they've sort of some of the manufacturers have kind of kept on going with this. So there's models like the Urban Arrow and the Reese Muller Paxter have a really all large capacious box that is very safe feeling. And it's also really fun to have a front loader in terms of cargo capacity because you can just toss things in there and you don't have to really pack. It's kind of like having a trunk on a bike. Um, and the front loaders are also going to have the largest capacity, so up to 3 children on bikes like the Load 75 and the Urban Arrow.
Family biking is certainly an investment, and for a lot of our customers, this is vastly the most that our families have spent on a bike. And so the question that you really have to think about is what exactly are you investing in and why? Um, there are the practicals, like what does the setup help you do? But there are other things that are really kind of more intangible and become really important. So one of the most surprising things is that when you have a family bike, you actually ride it by yourself more than you ride it with your kid. And so it becomes some of your really critical alone time. And so the question is, do you enjoy your setup, especially without your kid on board? Is it comfortable? Does it handle well? Does it feel like an extension of your body in a way that is confidence inspiring and magical?
One
Um,
thing I like to say that a good electric bike should be like the best bike you've ever ridden or beyond what you've imagined. And then you also have superpowers on top of that. So sometimes it shouldn't be like kind of a clunky kind of get it done sort of thing. It should be like a really great experience.
well, it can be
It can
easily,
be.
right? The other question when you're trying bikes or if you're in the process of trying them is how does a bike handle the tricky stuff? And I really define tricky stuff. Stuff comes in 3 categories. How does a bike handle hills, both uphill and downhill? How does it handle stop and go traffic? And how does it handle extra, like load, cargo? So when you're stopped and you're loading up the bike and then you get going, how does the kickstand work? How does it work to load the stuff on the bike? What is it like to ride at 2 or 3 miles an hour on the bike? And then how will it make your life better? How will it save you money? The spreadsheet Brett was mentioning, it's great for figuring that one out. That's our next webinar is like spreadsheeting
For e-bike.
e-bike purchasing.
Oh yeah, we've seen some pretty gnarly spreadsheets in our time. Um, so I think one a helpful way to kind of understand the um, the options out there is just to look at what the top sellers in our shop are. Um, so we have two big categories. One is the one child bikes, and the other is multiple children bikes, so two plus. Um, so the in the one child world, the top selling bikes is the Turn Quick Haul P9 Sport and the Turn HSD S11. Um, the Quick Haul is Turn's sort of base level, entry level cargo bike. It's very uh, it's really well priced with a Bosch motor system, but it fits all the accessories that Turn makes, and it still has very good quality, but it's kind of more pared down and simplified. Um, it also happens to be lighter weight because of that. But you can fit an adult passenger on the rear rack. You can fit a front rack. You can fit child seats, and it can kind of develop as time goes on. It's also very adjustable for different riders. And then the P9 Sport, they have a few different models, but the P9 Sport is very popular in our shops because it has more power for hills, is the primary reason. It also has a little bit higher top speed. Um, and then in that same vein, the HSD is sort of the next level up from the quick haul. So it's a more robust frame that takes higher weight capacities. They take this nearly the same weight capacity, actually. It just handles the weight better. It's a stiffer frame, which means it doesn't have as much, it kind of minimizes the amount of wiggliness, especially at higher speeds. So when you
And
have a
with
lot of
higher
weight
weights.
and higher weights, if you have a lot of weight, you can start, the frame can flex a little bit, and that sort of makes it feel a little less stable. And so when you make that frame really, if you engineer the frame really well and add extra support, it kind of really heightens the ride performance. Um,
And if you're, can people see my cursor
I
in
don't
this
know.
presentation? Well, I don't
Probably
know if
not.
you can see the cursor, but um,
Annotate.
oh, look at that. Basically, I mean, if you're looking at bikes like in person, you can really tell the difference if you look like down here at what they call the motor node, which is where the frame attaches to the motor, but then also like on the frame it's or sorry, like the tube itself, you'll notice this tube is very round, whereas this tube has a lot more engineering, and it's just like it actually has more structure in the way that it's built.
Um, the HSD S11, there's a few different models of the HSD. The S11 is near the top end, and the reason that is super popular is it's got upgraded suspension, but it also has higher top speed. So this bike has become extremely popular for like families as like the share bike that also is used for commuting. We don't only sell it to families; we also sell it to a lot of people who just like want a nice compact bike for riding around town.
Pet
Um,
owners,
yeah.
people like I had I swear this kid was like a high schooler, came in with like their kid sister was riding on the back of the
Yeah.
bike. It was awesome today.
Handyman.
Handyman,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so in the multiple children world, the top sellers are the Turn GSD S10, which is a brand new model Turn just came out with. It's sort of the next generation GSD, and has a lot of really cool features, but it's a more robust frame and it takes up to two children. It's coming standard with ABS brakes, which we'll talk about in a minute about why that's important. Um, and um, and the highest performance Bosch drive. Then there's the Riesenmuller Multi-Tinker Silent, and the Multi-Tinker is basically like the equivalent to the GSD and Riesenmuller's range. The Multi-Tinker Silent, though, is a belt drive version of the bike, so very low maintenance. The picture here is actually not that exact bike, just a stand-in. Um, but belt drive for low maintenance, very quiet, simple shifting, really easy to use. And then Riesenmuller is building all their bikes in Germany and at the top quality. And so from a safety and performance perspective, it's they're really
Excellent.
nicely done. And then the most premium version of the cargo bike, but also happens to be one of our most popular models, is the Riesenmuller Load 75. And there's two configurations. The roll-off is a belt drive internally geared hub, and you can see instead of a chain, you have a belt, and you have an internally geared hub instead of a chain derailleur. And then there's another one called the Touring HS, which is they're pretty evenly popular, but the roll-off is a little bit more. It's even more premium. Um, the Load 75 is kind of next level cargo bike. So it's a full suspension bike. So it has front suspension. Let me bring up my little uh, annotation so you can see. So there's suspension in the front. There's also suspension in the rear. So that means that both wheels are sort of sticking to the ground no matter what the terrain is. So it makes for more comfort for the rider, but also better safety and handling.
There's
Um,
also a fully functional rear rack
has a rear rack.
that can take 50 pounds.
Yeah. You can fit up to three children. Um, you can add, this is a like a cover, a wind and or like a weather
Weather cover.
cover. They're now, you can actually get a weather cover for all. Basically, every single model here has a weather cover, but I will say that the weather cover on a front loader is still the most sort of integrated version. Um, and um, and so yeah, I mean, when people ride it, if a budget allows, it's hard to beat a load. It's probably even among our staff, it's the most popular model that we sell.
Definitely among our staff.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Um,
think we need to get rid of our annotation.
let's get rid of our
So,
annotations.
motor systems there's basically like, we think of it as two different categories of motor systems. There are complete systems, which means that on an electric bike, you've got three big components, and then everything that attaches the big components together. And your big components are your motor, your battery, and your what the Europeans call human machine interface, i.e., where you push the buttons, the console. And so companies like Bosch and Shimano make what we call complete systems, which means that all three of those parts and everything that connects them are come as a kit essentially, and are used by manufacturers, are implemented by manufacturers in really creative ways on bikes, like as kind of sophisticated as the load, but regular bikes as well.
It's also that the system, it's shared among many different manufacturers. So it's not tied to one manufacturer. So Turn uses the Bosch system, Riesenmuller uses the Bosch system, Benno uses the Bosch system, Urban Arrow uses the Bosch system.
So there's kind of a strength in numbers situation there. So
And from a,
as a point of
yeah,
kind of context, we've been carrying Bosch for 12 years, and we can still support a Bosch system as well as we could, or maybe even better than we could 12 years ago, that was purchased way back then. Um, in comparison, other companies like Aventon and Specialized create their own systems, and oftentimes they're kind of combinations of parts from maybe a European motor company and an Asian battery company, and uh, an amalgamation essentially. And the trickiness there is that the long-term investment is, I think, what we've seen year over year is just a bit more questionable, because you're really depending on just a brand and the popularity of that particular model and their ability to support it and to send the part out and to know the product at a very deep level, um, and over time. And so from the perspective of kind of long-term investment, we've just seen that the complete system approach is uh, the best way to go in
it's a
many
little,
cases.
it's a little bit of a bet. Um, and some of these brands are very large, and Aventon is probably one of the number one top selling brands in the country now. So they have a lot of scale. Um, the difference, if you think about it just in terms of what the different brands do, I mean, Bosch is really, they're selling new motor systems, but they also, all they do is the motor system. So they have to sort of, like, that's what they do. Whereas, a proprietary system is tied into the manufacturer who is trying to make a very appealing final product bike and a very appealing price point, but they're also trying to sell new ones more.
Right. There's more advantage to just selling somebody a new bike
Hmm.
in 3 years than to necessarily fixing it.
Yeah. So we haven't, I would, and that's not to say we've seen one thing or the other, but it is something just to be aware of. Um, the Yeah, if you sort of follow the rationale, it kind of makes sense sometimes why um, one system is different than the other. The other thing about motor systems is there's different styles. So there are hub motors and there's mid-drive motors. That's kind of the big distinction. Hub motors, the motor system is there's the motor in the hub. There's a controller, which is like kind of the computer of the bike, and that can be somewhere on the bike. Usually it's in the down tube. And then there's a torque sensor, which measures your pedaling. So it tells the controller how much power to give to the motor. That will be in the bottom bracket usually. Um, that's a system that you'll find on bikes from like Aventon and some bikes from Specialized. Mid-drive systems are the motor and like all the electronics are in the middle of the bike
Where
and
the pedals
where
are.
the pedals are. And the benefit of that can be sort of great, like good mechanical advantage, and it runs through your transmission. The downside is there's more sort of force through the transmission, so there might be more wear and tear on, especially if there's lower like quality components in the drivetrain. Um, both have some advantages. Usually, the more premium models are going to be a mid-drive system, especially for longevity and hill climbing. But they're also going to cost a little bit more. Is there anything? Oh, the final
Oh,
thing, class system.
classes
Yeah, so there's three classes of e-bikes
in California.
in California and most states in the country. Class one is pedal assist up to 20 miles per hour, and it's considered just like a normal bike. Class two is pedal assist up to 20 miles per hour and then has a throttle up to 20 miles per hour. And then class three is pedal assist up to 28 miles per hour. And you have to be over 16 to ride a class three bike. And so more and more, like in our shop, most of our bikes are either class one or class three. Um, it's becoming a little bit more challenging, especially for children. Like Marin County just passed a law to not allow children to ride class two bikes. So they already weren't allowed to ride class three, but they're not allowed to ride class two. So it's only class one. At the end of the day, it's the analogy I would say is um, a good pedal assist system is the best system out there. It's kind of like the equivalent of, using your finger on an iPhone versus a stylus. It just is it's intuitive. If it's done well and you've got the performance of the motor, it just works smooth and it's intuitive.
Are you saying a class two bike is a
It's
stylus?
a little bit of a
Like a,
stylus.
it's like a, what did they call those? The Palm Pilot?
It's like a Palm Pilot a little
Oh,
bit. And
nice.
usually what you find even on bikes that have class two systems is you don't tend to use a good, if as long as it's got a good pedal assist system that has a torque sensor, you won't use the throttle very often, because it also wears out the battery a lot faster and things like this.
One of the things that's been really kind of great to participate in and see develop is just the level of sophistication in the bikes and the product. Um, Another kind of newsworthy topic has been battery fires and electrical problems on all sorts of small mobility devices, but also electric bikes. And the response there is really UL certification. And UL certification is uh, basically a certification that certifies that the electronics parts and the communication between those parts is safe, not going to start a fire, not going to cause like excessive radiation, etc. And most e-bikes are UL certified these days, and that means that you can charge them with confidence. You're not putting yourself or anybody at risk by owning it, and so that's a great development. The other thing is that in Germany now, bikes, for example, from Turn and from Riese Miller are go through actual frame and component testing. It's the standard's called DIN 79010, and it tests how well the frame and all of its components, specifically the brakes and suspension, handle the loads of
That they're rated
that
for.
they're rated for. Like, can a bike actually do what the manufacturer says it can do from the perspective of hauling stuff or kids or whatever it is, people. Um, One of the really key things to look at when you're buying an electric bike is the quality of the brakes. And a lot of that can just needs to be seen by what the brand is. So there are certain name brand brake systems that are just better quality. Not all hydraulic brakes, not all disc brakes are created equal. So you want to look for brakes made by Magura, Shimano, Tektro, TRP, or SRAM.
Also, if
One
it's a
of
name
the
brand bike brand, they'll usually use one of those. If it's a, if,
Well, it depends. Like
yeah,
people would consider Rad Power name brand, but
yeah, I
they
don't
don't
know. I think
necessarily use like they have blank brake
I
components.
think they may have moved over to Tektro, but
Oh, okay.
maybe at this point we'll
Oh,
see.
okay. Well,
We don't know,
I don't
but
know.
yeah,
Um, but I mean, stopping is outstandingly important.
Yeah.
Especially if you're putting your kids on the bike, especially if you're dealing with serious hills. And that's why some new technology, which exists on your car or on
Motorcycle.
motorcycles currently, is anti-lock braking systems. So that is what an ABS brake is. And what it means is that there's a component on the in the braking system that essentially, like if you haul on a brake, if you pull a brake really hard, it can actually completely stop your wheel. And when your wheel stops, it skids and braking ends and falling begins,
You lose
basically. You lose
you
you
lose
lose
traction
control. You lose traction,
and
you
you're
lose
slipping
control.
now.
Um, and so what an ABS system does is it doesn't allow your wheel to lock up. Instead, you will just slow. And it means that your stopping is about 30% faster than it is on a regular
Yeah.
braking system.
There's like a 30% shorter distance
Mhm.
for braking, which is kind of a big deal if you think about it. It means that you can just pull the brake as hard as you want, and you can stop 30% fast, shorter because you can pull it as hard as you want. You don't have to worry about slipping or having it disengage. So that's the newest, like the latest technology, and it's on like the new Turn GSD. It's also on like the
Load.
recent Muller loads and um, Paxters that you can have it as it's an option, and it's going to be coming more and more on bikes in the future.
One of the final things that putting an electric system on your bike does is it means that your lighting system can be integrated. From a safety perspective, this is huge, right? You don't have to remember to charge your lights up if you find yourself out a little bit later than you thought you were going to be. You're not putting yourself at risk because you're not visible on the street. Um, and yeah, they're just often higher quality, better visibility lights.
So, and not all lights are created equal. I mean, there are much brighter lights. The lights we're showing here on the screen, the supernova lights,
It's a
are an
good light.
upgrade option too. So even if it doesn't, your bike doesn't start with one of those, you can always add it later. So let's talk about getting started. What time are we? Oh yeah,
Oh,
we're on time here. Sort of. We'll move quickly here. So um, this a few things like when you're thinking about considerations around buying a family bike. Um, as I hope we kind of went through here, like the value of a useful family bike is really, really high. Um, so there's the price and then there's the value, and the value is there, especially if you use it. And we'll go into how to make sure you're going to use it in a bit here in a moment. But the key thing though, first is to have a bike that's really is going to be the right setup for you so you'll want to use it. So if you have something that's a little bit like not quite right or doesn't quite fit right or you don't feel really comfortable on, then that's just gonna the value isn't even if it was inexpensive, it still is not the value's not there. That's also why test riding is a non-optional thing. Um, you need to try the bikes to really get a feeling for everything on it, and the only way to try them is to test ride. Um, so no matter what, you should make sure you try the bikes. Another just consideration to keep in mind is if you're on a budget, we always recommend going for a used e-bike, especially a used bike with like a name brand motor system, like a Bosch system, or a name brand like a Turn or a Riese Muller, over going consumer direct. Sometimes consumer direct can look really good online, but the service and support isn't necessarily there. And things can look really good online, and they aren't very good when they show up in your door, and you're having to fiddle with it and make it work, and have no one there to help you. And a bike is going to last a long time, and 5 years from now or 4 years from now, if you have an issue come up, a good quality used bike is going to serve you really well. And so on the budget front too, just keep in mind there are options that can make it affordable, from going to your bank or your credit union and getting a loan. They have e-bike loans like this SF Fire Credit Union and Redwood Credit Union both have e-bike specific loans. And then we also offer 12-month no interest financing. So it's kind of almost a no-brainer, for making like lower payments, and that can include everything, including the bike plus any accessories that you need to make it useful for you.
When you do choose a bike, give yourself some time. So practice is really key. And if possible, give yourself some time without your human cargo. Have somebody else take care of them. Give yourself an hour to just practice getting on and off the bike, starting and stopping, parking and locking, loading your kids, loading your stuff. Um, these are the riding part is pretty simple compared to a lot of those little details, and it really can like build your confidence very quickly to just give yourself the kind time. So what we see, it is, just the old saying, it's just like riding a bike. Well, this is just like riding a bike. However, there's an hour to 2 hour learning curve that's steeper than all the rest of it. And these are the things that I'd recommend practicing during that time. In terms of I think we've talked about safety in various ways throughout this presentation, but I do have a few kind of safety and handling tips that I just always keep in mind myself. One of the things is that um, the most likely time to like spill your kids or yourself is actually when your bike is very slow, riding very slow. So at a start or at a stop, riding under about 5 miles per hour. And so consider that when you're practicing on your bike, when you're uh, test riding bikes, that sort of thing. The other thing, especially here in San Francisco, if you find yourself riding parallel to a train or trolley track, it's very easy to slip or get stuck in a train track. It's the most common moving uh, accident that we see. And so my recommendation is just to take a different route. If you find yourself riding parallel, take a right, take a left, get away from those tracks. It is safe to cross them at 90 degrees. Otherwise, find a new place to be. If you're at a tricky intersection, like you don't know how to make it across safely, stop and walk across with the pedestrians. It's often the best choice, especially if you're in kind of an uncharted intersection or a bigger intersection. Um, if it's raining, add 10% time to your trip. Especially like autumn rain or first rain, slipperiness is really important to be aware of because the road just is more slick during that time. And then the last thing is that parked car doors are kind of the quiet risk that you run when you ride too close to parked cars. So you actually want to give all cars a nice girth of about 3 feet or the distance of the door, so that if somebody opens their door quickly, you don't get hit by that door.
So don't, yeah, we call it the door zone. You just ride on the outside of the door zone. So you don't have to, if you have a bike lane, you don't have to ride in the middle of the bike lane. You don't have to ride on the inside of the bike lane, ride on the outside of the bike lane,
Meaning closest to the white line.
closest to the white line, on the car side. It's a lot safer. There's a lot, this map is out of date. There's a lot of amazing streets now, for riding. You can use Google Maps or Apple Maps to
Chart out a
to
good
chart
route.
it all out, chart out your routes. Give yourself time to figure it out too. You can take other routes that you wouldn't normally take when you're riding an e-bike versus a normal bike. You can go up and over things. Hills aren't a problem anymore. Um, but it's only getting better, and the more of us out there, the better it's going to get. But there's, car-free routes now all across the city. There's slow streets, there's great bike lanes. But sometimes there's a learning curve just to figure it out and to feel really comfortable.
One of the things I'm just a quick plug for spontaneity. So my regular practice, if I'm going somewhere I've never been on my bike, is I chart it out on the map. But then the amazing thing about an e-bike is that if it isn't working out, you can make a quick decision and you never find yourself in a sticky situation. Meaning, say you're riding down a road and I don't know, just car driver energy's wrong on that road, or there's too much traffic or whatever. You can just take a right, find a different street, say there's a steep hill, it's no problem, you just shift down. or you need to stop and turn around, it's no problem. Stopping isn't hard because going isn't hard. You don't have to worry about losing momentum. So there is this, I encourage a little bit of like adventure spirit in the context of your planning.
Free classes are available, so every bike coalition has classes for cycling, for even from adult learn to ride to skills building to kid ride to family cycling. SF Bike Coalition, Marin Bike Coalition, East Bay Bicycle Coalition, and Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition all have great resources. And here are some links here, and we're happy to send you more. Um, so, how do you get started riding? A program that we launched couple of years ago now, but really it's now starting to really take off, is called Friiway. That's Friiway. It's an e-bike subscription program, and it allows you to start riding as soon as possible without having to think too hard about it and without having to, be fully committed. Sometimes, we've seen people like they make decisions even, going to buy something that isn't quite right just because they want to do proof of concept. Well, now with Friiway, you can do proof of concept without being, tied in. So it's a month-to-month subscription. You can apply a portion of your subscription towards the purchase of a bike. Um, so you can do it for a couple, 2, 3 months. You learn, you love it. You learn all your routes. You figure out how it fits in your life, and then you can buy to buy your dream bike. It also includes everything, so you don't have to really sort too much out. It comes with maintenance, insurance, a lock, the basic accessories you need for having your children on the bike. So it's a really,
And
really
a really
good
good
way
bike.
and a great bike. That's yeah, a really important part of this is like you're not just getting like something that works. You're getting an incredible Reese Muller or Urban Arrow that really is like the best around. Um, so this, I can't recommend this highly enough. You can sign up on our website or on friiway.com, Friiway. And then finally, even if you think that route sounds great, you still should just come in and book a test ride. So go to newwheel.net/ride.
One of the things that makes our stores really different is that they're full of demo bikes. So we don't actually have like all stock bikes in our store. We have bikes to try. So even if you're just driving by and you've got half an hour, stop in, try a bike, get curious, feel the magic. It truly is the way to go.
Um, so now we're right at time,
Yeah.
but we can stay. So if you have questions, you can add them to the chat. And if you don't have any questions, we understand because it's late. We might want to go to bed. And we can always answer questions. You can always just email us info@newwheel.net or give us a call 415-524-7362. We've got 3 stores. We're open. Well, we're technically open 7 days a week, but the San Francisco stores currently is six.
Closed on Mondays.
Oh, Q&A. What about safety gear and ride comfort for kids?
Ooh, love it. Okay, safety gear.
Great.
Um, so safety gear, when I think of safety gear, I think of a few different um categories. There is, helmets. Um, Helmets are key. One of my favorite ways of increasing safety on an e-bike with family is choosing apparel that has reflective or high vis qualities. It's really low maintenance. It makes a huge difference to people around you. They can see you much better. Um, Things like reflectors on bike pedals are huge. Um, and
I would say also on ride comfort, I think the number one thing is, in our experience, is weather covers. You don't have to dress the child absolutely perfectly for all environments, especially, I mean, sometimes it's really hot too, and there's direct sunlight. And if you're going on a longer ride, having a weather cover is incredible. So on all the bikes, all of our family bikes, they have weather cover options that will protect from rain, wind, sun, and just make it really enjoyable for passengers, and they can sleep in there and everything. So I would say, that is the number one easiest way to go. You can also get like gloves, and you can get, there's scarves and there's blankets and there's all sorts of things which are also great.
My favorite hack
Hmm.
is a sheepskin. I think
Sheepskins are great.
like we get so much use out of a sheepskin. They're super windproof. They're insanely warm if they need to be warm, and they're very comfortable if just comfort is needed.
Mhm.
Um, I also will say I think one of the really interesting things to me watching, I think it's really, really dependent on the kid and their personality. But what I've seen is that um, Ida's sort of like overall resilience to the environment and like a cold day is really like very, very strong. And she also will totally just let us know if she needs something. Um, and she is a lot less sensitive to, and I see this in most kids, they're less sensitive to it than we are and our concerns are. So, I think they enjoy having the fresh air on their face a lot of the time. Ida rode across the Golden Gate Bridge most days of her life for like 5 years. Um, and
That could get rough.
that
That could
got
get rough.
real windswept on occasion. And those weather adventures were just fantastic. Like we just got super drenched sometimes, and those are real memories.
Well, we got
For
drenched, but the rain
But I
covers,
mean, she sometimes did too,
well,
and
if
it
we
was just
forgot,
like an adventure.
yeah, but the rain cover, I mean, they really solved it with rain covers. That's all I can
That's
say.
true. But
It's so easy, and
sometimes forget
it's so easy these days. And it used to be like not all the bikes had those up until like a
a
couple
year
years
ago,
ago.
yeah, 2 years
But
ago.
now it's basically a requirement, and it makes all the difference. And it's simple. I like some simple solutions, like the one thing.
Yeah, it's always nice. Hope that answered your question.
Well,
Anything else?
if there are any other questions, feel free to email us, info@newwheel.net. We are open San Francisco 6 days a week, Tuesday through Sunday. Marin, Tuesday through Sunday, and Oakland is Wednesday through Sunday. Um, and we look forward to seeing you at the shop.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.